Today we're going over 3 basic exercises you can use for mobility assessment for endurance athletes. The first is the overhead squat. Second is a lunge with interlaced arms behind your back. And third is a bird dog variation to see core control. For the overhead squat, take a ski pole, place your hands just slightly wider than hip width apart, place them overhead as if making a Y shape, and drop down into as low of a squat as you can. You'll want to repeat this 2 times with a front view and again 2 times with a side view. Try and get your hips as low to the ground as possible while maintaining as much of an upright posture as possible. Try and keep your chest facing forward and your gaze high. Try and think about keeping your ears in between your elbows and your hands pointed straight to the sky. Also try and think about keeping the middle of the knees over the middle of your toes so that your knees are tracking properly. As much as this is an assessment for your mobility, it's also an assessment for your stability, and we'll be keeping an eye on different joints to see how they are able to do this movement correctly. Good mobility doesn't always equal good stability, and vice versa. When we're looking at the upper body, you might find that you have a lot of restriction or tightness in your shoulders if you have a little bit more of a round in your upper back. You may notice you're not able to keep your arms overhead during your squat. If you're struggling with the overhead arms, you can also do this in a back rack position. When we're looking at the lower body, you might find that you use one leg more than the other to squat. This might be your dominant leg, but you likely have some imbalances because of it. Something else that's common, particularly in younger and female endurance athletes, is instability in the knees, or not being able to keep the middle of your knee tracking over the middle of your toes during your squat. This is likely due to some instability in the hip. You might also notice some stiffness or rounding in your low back, or just an inability to turn your pelvis to allow for a neutral low back. This is likely indicating tightness in the entire posterior chain. Our second exercise is the lunge, where you're going to put one head on the ski pole behind your head and the other arm on the ski pole near your low back. You'll execute 2 lunges on each side, facing the front. Each time you switch your legs, you're also going to switch your arms. Again, you want to think about keeping the middle of the knee over the middle of the foot for optimal stability. You're then going to repeat the same lunges, but with a side view. And this time you're looking at your shoulders as well as your back positioning. You want to try and contact the ski pole in 3 places: your hips, your shoulders, and your head. When we're looking at the upper body, we want to try and have the shoulders in a neutral position with the shoulder blades pulled back and down together along the body. You can see the logo pointed directly towards me and the more vertical aspect to my upper arm. If you round your shoulders in and create that internal rotation, you can see how the logo is now facing forward on my jersey and how my arm has a little more difficulty staying vertical. You might also have your head disconnect from the pole, indicating some tightness in the upper body. Looking at the lower body, we might see some similar aspects of instability at the hip affecting the knees. You might notice that your knee deviates medially or towards the middle of your body, indicating a lack of stability through the hips. This might be different from the left to the right leg. You might also notice that from the side view, you can see if that front heel can stay on the ground or if it likes to lift. If your heel lifts in the front, you probably have some tightness in your calves that needs to be resolved for better movement patterns. 2x4 Coaching offers both strength assessments as well as strength programs. You can check out our website or send us a message to get in touch.